Your Excellency, Minister Mohamed Ghagabi, Minister for Coordinating Government Affairs of the United Arab Emirates, Excellencies, dear participants, what pleasure to be together again and to design the future. We are here to develop the great narrative, a story for the future. And I would like to refer to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice Chairman and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Dubai, who told us that in order to shape the future, you have first to imagine the future, you have to design the future, and then you have to execute. What better place for such a meeting than Dubai? I came here the first time 47 years ago. And it was a small Greek minister, and now it's one of the most vibrant cities, one of the most inclusive cities in the world. So here, I think the next 2 days, we will look how we imagine, how we design, how we execute the great narratives, how we define the story of our world for the future. I want to thank you for all of you to come here. I know some of you have traveled for a long time, but I can promise you it's worthwhile. But let's start this meeting by hearing why Dubai is so successful. So, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
And what we can learn from you for our future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Professor Klaus Schwab, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the United Arab Emirates. I would like to thank the World Economic Forum for making this meeting happen. It is a timely opportunity to reconnect back and to hear from the world's brightest mind. The world has gone through a very difficult time in the past couple of months. People are looking for a way for a great transformation. We need, as a world, a new blueprint. In fact, a new great narrative. We need a new great narrative because we live in the world where the richest 1% have more than double the wealth of 7 billion people. While almost half of the world population lives under $6 a day. We need a new great narrative because the last 7 years were the warmest on record. We cannot afford to waste more time on inaction or denial about the climate change. We need a new great narrative because the world has been through one of the largest economic downturn in its history. And we need a new great narrative because our digital world will be as important as the physical one. Already there are more connected devices than people in the world. And by 2025, there will be 5 times more devices than people in this planet. We need a new great narrative because it will inspire both hope and action. And government, first and foremost, are in the business of installing hope, a business that touches 7.8 billion people who strive for a better future. It is time to imagine what role government should play to enable this new great narrative. As you know, global challenge require global solution. A whole of government approach is simply not enough. We need a whole of society and a whole of humanity approach. Professor Klaus Schwab, ladies and gentlemen, collectively, we are the author of this new chapter. We cannot be passive and reactive. As Klaus mentioned, His Highness quote, "The future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and implement it." We are here in the Emirates to examine the possible scenario ahead of us. How can we design government to be future ready, to be citizen ready? How do we lead the world into a sustainable and better future? And of course, what will be the great narrative? I thank you.
Your Excellency, when we look at the world today, we see difficulties actually to shape the future. And I just would mention three of those obstacles. The first one is certainly the fact that maybe also caused by the pandemic, people have become much more self-centered and to a certain extent egoistic. So in such a situation, it's much more difficult to create a compromise because shaping the future, designing the future, usually needs a common will of the people. The second reason why it's so difficult to move out of, let's say, our present context and really to design the future is the fact that we all have become so much crisis focused with the pandemic. And then I would add a third factor. The world has become so complex. So simple solutions to complex problems do not suffice anymore. You have today not anymore the separation between social, political, technological, ecological. It's all interwoven. So it's very difficult in such a situation to really bring everybody together and to imagine and to design the future. So Dubai, Your Excellency, has managed to become, as I mentioned, one of the most vibrant cities, inclusive cities, and is now on its way to become also one, if not the smartest city in the world. But what would you see in this context? How would you see the role of government? Because at the end, we need an effort where even intellectually and in terms of his contribution, nobody is left behind. We need a multi-stakeholder effort. But what is the role of the government in this respect?
Thank you, Professor. We have to understand that today we sit in a very interesting time zone when it comes to human history. We have to look at our current situation. It is part of human evolution, and this is part of human history. Today, I believe that we sit in the first second of the first minute of the first day of the first year when it comes to the second wave of human evolution, and that's based on technology. So human evolution been through phases from we discover fire to we discover wheel. Today with technology, whatever will happen the next 50 years, it will be totally different. So for us as a humanity, for hundreds of thousands of years, we've been at a normal pace. The current pace, as you stated, is complex. Because for the first time, with technology, we are putting our society, economy, government, our life together under somehow one platform. Life became just one platform. So whatever will happen in the future, it will be based on what we design now. How do we design our world? Going back to government. Government been in this structure and shape for almost 200 years. Private sector, institution evolved. They reinvented themselves, while government globally, they were doing whatever they are doing for hundreds of years. And I think the role of government is very important, and we felt it during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we had globally this talk, small government, big government, no role government, but we found out that countries who have strong government with future foresight can evolve totally different than anybody else. So going back to the role of government, our job is to design a better future. Always we believe that. In the Emirates, we believe that. I don't want to say we are government official. We are designer, and we have to bring this word always and remind our colleague, all the ministers, that their job is to design. Either we design a better future or we design not that good of a future for the new generation. So whatever we do in life, we look at it from how do you design a better future. Klaus, we live in a very complex world. But somehow when you look at the Middle East, it is like the center of complex, from political, religion, history. And in the Emirates, we wake up every morning evaluating our surrounding. But our role as a nation always been looking forward. One of the advantages that we have is we have also very young population that can take us to the future. If you look at, even our minister, their average age quite young, and as a government, we are in the business of implementing new idea. We are, always I say, as a country, we are a lab for new idea, a lab that country can coexist with each other. But also not that, but how do you bring 200 nationality, all the religion of the world, in the heart of the Middle East, and people lives in peace and harmony without any social or religious or ethnic issue. The world is complex. The example that I gave is our job as designer in the government is to bring people and humanity together. This is the future. And how do you utilize technology for a better improvement of our region and our world. I try to make it simple, but it is complex. But in life, I believe that it's very easy to complicate things. It's difficult to simplify idea and strategy. We are in the business of trying to simplify life for everybody, but also trying to put a journey as a nation, as a human being, for our region, and to be a puller for this region from its misery.
Your Excellency, first I want to thank you and of course His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum for the great generosity and of assembling us here, but also for the long-standing cooperation. And I mentioned the cooperation with your country goes back many, many years. But I want to highlight one particular, let's say, achievement. When I wrote my book and I introduced this notion of the fourth industrial revolution as the shaping force for our future, we felt it's very important that we really work together on a global level to make sure that we use the potential of the fourth industrial revolution for the benefit of mankind, because technology also has certain pitfalls and can be used to the detriment of humankind. So we established this network of centers around the world, and actually you were the first country outside our own centers which responded positively. And I would like to thank the Minister for the great cooperation we have here with our Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I'm also very happy that we have here assembled economists, sociologists, but also representatives, scientists, who can really enlighten us about all those new technologies. Now, this brings me to the point of the Expo. I think the Expo is a very great demonstration to get also the people to understand the possibility, first to celebrate the history of the past and the achievements of the past, but also to show the people what technology can do, and to alert the people what challenges we have in our world. I just remember my own visit in Expo 2 days ago, how you make sure that everybody understands, among many other things, the problem of pollution of our oceans by plastics. So what significance has the Expo for you in this context of shaping the narrative, I would say the story for our future?
Thank you, Professor. It's good that you've seen the nation from 1974, as you stated, that was your first visit. By the way, after 20 days, we'll celebrate our 50th anniversary as a country. Born on 2nd of July, 1971. As a nation, it's been a tremendous journey. We started from almost nothing in this country. No highway, no university, female enrollment, and I mean, when the country was founded in 1971, they were looking for university graduate to appoint as government official. The whole country has only 40 university graduate. and female were just handful. Just handful. Today we have the highest enrollment of female from high school to university, the highest in the world. So we started from there. Today we're celebrating over 192 countries and the Dubai Expo. Expo, it is a celebration of humanity. This is the way we need. Expo is a celebration of human innovation. Expo, it is country, yes, they can work together. The importance of Expo, Professor Klaus, is the timing also of the Expo. This is the new reset for the world after the pandemic. This is how we celebrate that. We are winning this war against the pandemic collectively as 192 nations. The importance of Expo, this is the largest Expo gathering ever in the history of Expo. And this is, I believe, that the best Expo ever. But the importance of this Expo, it happened when the world trying to get out of one of the largest pandemic that human race is facing. So collectively, this is it's taking me to a question that I want to ask you, Professor, is how do you see the future global collaboration? I mean, you've been connecting everybody since early 70s. How do you see?
Hopefully in optimistic terms. No, if we look back, and I just come for a moment back to the story of Dubai, we have a tendency to look at all our challenges at the moment and to be overwhelmed. We know the world should be more resilient. We have learned the lesson how, let's say, little we were prepared for a pandemic, but there are other risks we potentially have to face. We know the world is not inclusive enough. We know the world is not sustainable enough. And the world is not collaborative enough. But I always tell myself, looking back, we have the pleasure and honor to celebrate both the 50th anniversary. And when I see people looking with a lot of pessimism to the future, for example, the lack of, as Your Excellency just hinted at, the lack of global cooperation, we should not forget what progress we have made in the last 50 years. It's not only Dubai. Dubai is a certain symbol for the progress made. But just think of how much more sophisticated are, what much more capabilities we have with all the new communication devices. If we look at, I mean, I remember 50 years ago, if we would have assembled here, one of the biggest challenges would have been the analphabetism in the world. Today, of course, we still have it, but so much progress has been made. One of the most striking, let's say, achievements is the extension of life expectancy. But it's not only that we live longer, we can live a much more fulfilled life. So looking at the future, I think when I grew up, it was still the time of the Cold War. And today, of course, we continue to have frictions in the world. And we all know also the tensions, particularly between the United States and China. But in such a world, I think we always have common interests. And I take it as a very positive sign, what I read this morning, about a stronger cooperation between the United States and China in terms of the environmental issues. So the issue is that when we look at bridging all those differences, we should not leave it alone to the governments. Of course, governments have to play a major role, but I think business as a clue of international cooperation, but also science as a clue of international cooperation is very important. And I think what we are doing here is very important, because you can cooperate if you define the common interests which we have, and if we show also politicians that at the end, sometimes to make short-term compromises is in the interest, in the long-term interest of every party involved. But just to conclude our short session, Minister Gargawi, how would you see Dubai in 50 years from now?
Very difficult to answer, but we believe as a country, the Emirates have a mission in life as a country. This is very important. As individual, each one have a calling in life. Organization, they have a calling in life. But as a nation, we believe that we have to have a calling in life. And it should be very defined, and it should be very clear. Going back, our job is to design the future. And design is very complex, but also you can simplify it. An example is, how do I see the country in 50 years? Actually, we wrote from now 10 principles that we'd like to apply for the next 50 years as a nation to elevate humanity, but to elevate also human being here. I'll give you some example. One of the things that we decided that we wouldn't get involved in any conflict. Anything should be solved peacefully. Will be a human-centric. Our job is to develop people. This is what we do. We'll concentrate internally in our economy and prosperity. We define the outline that who we are. This is in a way that we're designing our DNA. We believe that we are building in a region sometimes doesn't tolerate religious different ethnicity. We embedded, it became our principle. We have 10 principles that we believe that we need to live together as human race, as different background, different color, different religion, one place. So it is simple, but that's the essence of life. How do we see it? We'd like to be, hopefully, a modern nation. 20 days from now, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. And as we stated, 1971, we didn't have road, we didn't have anything. Last summer, we went to Mars as a nation. And going to Mars, for us, it was not just going to Mars. It was part of what humanity are capable of doing. Neither of my parents went to school. Nobody asked me how well I did my homework. That was the good thing, or bad. But today I'm sitting here with you. All of us is part of this human journey. The next 50 years, we understand, is going to be complex, as we stated. But the most important thing that we need to balance between the complexity of the future with technology, but also the soul and the human journey. This balance is very important. We'd like to land in the future peacefully as a human race, because the enemy is one today. The enemy, it is global warming. The enemy, it is really the gap between people and nation who they don't have, the gap in technology. So we are worried that the gap might be too large, too big to bridge it. As a nation, we live in a region that around us, almost half of the population of the world, 3.5 billion people. And they need people like themselves who wear the same clothes. They look like them as a model. And our role to build this model. We're not perfect. We have a lot of growing pain as a young country, but we are seeking perfection. We're trying to get there. So we'd like really in 50 years to be a modern nation and to do whatever is good for humanity and to design from today, collectively, a better future for humanity.
Minister, that's, I think, the best message for the next, for our discussions the next two days. I just would add, we are, as you mentioned, in some kind of a completely new transformation phase of humankind. And what we want to do is certainly, you want to improve the state of the people, we want to improve the state of the world. I think that unites us in our mission. But I think it's very important to be mission-driven. If you are mission-driven, then you have a constructive view of the future. If you lack this mission, then I think you have the tendency to fall down in pessimism, in let's say, disputes and so on and so on. So let's use our positive energy really to create a great narrative for humankind for the next, in the next 2 days. And I can promise you, with the help of our partner, the United Arab Emirates and Dubai, and with what we have in mind to give great publicity to what we are doing, particularly also at the forthcoming Davos meeting. Let's hope we have an impact, a positive impact on the future of our common humanity. Thank you again, and thank you for the great cooperation. Thank you, Minister. Thank you for the great support we have, and I wish you all a very good meeting. And I hope that when we leave here, this country, we leave with the conviction that we have made progress in the most crucial issues humankind is facing, which means to take our own fate into our hands and not to be overwhelmed by all the different issues we have to face simultaneously at this particular moment. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you.